it's 12 months since we were in Liverpool, and therefore a year since I took over from Janice Langley as NFWI Chair. And what a year it's been. I've nearly been to all four corners of England, Wales and the islands, visiting WIs and federations, and I've loved every minute of it. But more of that later. Now here we are back in Wales, visiting the roots of the WI once again, where 103 years ago we saw the formation of the very first WI at
Llandisylio, go, go, go. Come on, Welsh. Shall we try it again?
Try it again, yes.
Llanfair, Pwll Gwyngyll, Gogel, Chwyldrobwr, Llandisylio, go, go, go. That's better.
Thank you, Anne. I wasn't even going to attempt it. But when you consider what was happening in the world at the time, with the First World War still raging, and many women having to fend for themselves while their menfolk went off to fight, you have to admire the foresight of our predecessors 100-odd years ago, who were committed to improving life for women in rural areas. They were a very feisty bunch, many of whom, including the redoubtable duo of Lady Denman and Grace Hadow, had been involved with the suffrage movement, either as suffragettes or suffragists. 1918 was an exciting time for women, with those over 30 who were property owners given the vote at last after a long fight, although it would be another 10 years before all women got the vote. Interestingly, apart from the fact that most men thought that women wouldn't be able to cope with voting, the main reason why full enfranchisement was delayed was apparently because of the losses during the First World War. In 1918, women were in the majority, so if they'd all voted, it would have influenced the outcome. Perish the thought. Now, you may have noticed that all the NFWI trustees and staff members are today wearing purple, green and white corsages, and that the stage flowers are also in those colours, which is our small tribute to the importance of the suffrage movement to the early years of the WI. An article in the Times appeared in March 1918, headed "The New Women's Institutes," and began a movement which will have far-reaching results in the reconstruction of rural life is now spreading rapidly through the villages of England and Wales. It goes on to explain what went on at a WI meeting and concludes, "One of the most satisfactory consequences of the formation of a women's institute is the number of village women who learn to give expression to their ideas." I think we're still doing that. But I wonder how many of those WI pioneers, no matter how optimistic they were, would have dreamt that 103 years later, the organisation would be going from strength to strength. Last year, over 30,000 new members joined, with 86 new WIs springing up in the same period. And since the beginning of this year, we've gained over 19,000 new members and 63 new WIs. And our membership numbers are on track to be 220,000 again this year. I also wonder whether our founder members would have anticipated that the WI would be the subject of so much media interest 103 years later. Not all of it welcome, it's true, but there's no denying that we make the news. Whether it's our monthly columns in Crafts Beautiful and Great British Food magazines, being featured on BBC Breakfast for the launch of Walking Netball, a host of articles about our campaigns, through to the heartwarming story of members in the Manchester area coming together to wash and repair teddies that were left as a memorial following last year's Manchester Arena attack, so that they could be distributed to children's charities throughout Greater Manchester. A story of WI spirit at its very best. And our congratulations go to all involved in that project. Now here's some exciting news. WIQ, a one-off quiz show, will be coming to BBC Radio 4 soon. There are teams from 2 different WIs, Manchester WI and Cambridge Ladybirds WI, and it's going to be presented by Joe Brand, who'll be accompanied by Chloe Fox from Shoreditch Sisters. We'll announce the broadcast date as soon as it's been set by the BBC, but please watch out for the announcements on our social media platforms. Social media, of course, is becoming increasingly important, and we currently have 36,000 followers on Twitter, over 19,000 Facebook fans, and our Instagram page now has 3,400 followers. Social media is a bit like Marmite. You either like it or loathe it, but you can't deny that used properly, it's a great way to get the WI's message across to thousands of people very quickly. And that goes for WIs, federations, or the NFWI. And it's free, so of course it's loved by WI treasurers everywhere. We often use social media as a method of hosting Q&As with experts relating to our campaigns. And this Friday, the 8th of June, which is World Oceans Day, there'll be a Twitter Q&A with Imogen Napper, who's working to end plastic soup at the National Marine Litter Research Unit at Plymouth University. Our campaigns have always been a big part of our public image, and this year, I'm sure you know, we're celebrating 100 years of WI campaigning, as our first resolution was passed in 1918, calling for the support for the scheme for state-aided housing. Joanna Rayner, our head of PR, has put together a film to celebrate 100 years of campaigning, and we'd like to show it to you now.
On the 24th of October 1918, at the NFWI's second annual meeting at Cathedral Hall in Westminster, WI members voted on and passed the WI's first resolution, thus establishing the first WI campaign. At this time there were just over 700 WIs and 12,000 WI members. This first resolution was put forward by Epping WI in Essex Federation to ensure the provision of a sufficient supply of convenient and sanitary houses. This was just the beginning, and the last 100 years have seen the NFWI, federations, WIs and members get behind an incredible range of social policy, health, food and agriculture, education, environmental and international campaigns, with WI successes ensuring increased public awareness and important policy changes. 1918 was also when the NFWI started employing staff, with a £2,000 government grant enabling employment of 5 full-time members of staff and 2 part-time. This was a crucial step towards becoming an organisation with the influence and scope that the WI was quickly garnering, as staff were able to manage and oversee the newly implemented resolutions process. The resolutions process means that members play a central role in defining policy and bringing issues onto the WI's national agenda. It is a wholly democratic process and genuinely member-led from beginning to end. Over the following years, from 1919 to 1925, there were 51 resolutions brought to the annual meetings for discussion and voting, and roughly a third of these were about women taking their place in society, encouraging women to stand for election to local councils, supporting the appointment of women to public posts, such as juries and the police force, or about issues specific to women, such as maternity care and pensions for widows. And the successes were tangible even then. In 1919, the first female mayor of Higham Ferris in Northamptonshire was a WI member, and 2 members of the Somerset Federation Committee were elected onto their county council. Not all campaigns garnered results immediately, but WI members have never shied from maintaining pressure until they see a result, for decades if necessary. The 1921 resolution on jury service came at a time when virtually no women met the qualifying criteria. Later, a 1964 AGM resolution led to a decade of campaigning to implement the Morris Report, which called for jury service to be open for all. Pressure from the WI and other women's organisations ultimately resulted in the Juries Act of 1974. Likewise, WI members were among the first to debate on the dangers of smoking by passing a resolution to ban smoking in public places in 1964. Eventually, in 1984, there was a ban on smoking on the London Underground, and finally, in public buildings in 2007. The NFWI's progressive campaigning history is a clear indication of how we have remained relevant since the beginning. Other campaign focuses over the years have included equal pay in 1943, preserving the countryside against litter in 1954, which led to the foundation of Keep Britain Tidy, breast cancer screening in 1975, and the trafficking of women and children in 2004. We were also founding members of the Fair Trade Foundation in 1992. As early as 1922, WI resolutions focused on venereal disease, and in 1986, the WI was one of the first groups in the UK to talk about AIDS and strove to remove the stigma and inform the general public of the true facts of the disease. WI campaign successes are too numerous to list, but notable recent examples are Care Not Custody, SOS for honeybees, and More Midwives, all of which we still work on today. The 2008 Care Not Custody campaign secured government backing and a total of £75 million for schemes to ensure that people with mental health problems that come into contact with the criminal justice system get the treatment and support they need. The SOS for Honeybees campaign in 2009 was instrumental in seeing the government launch the National Pollinator Strategy in November 2014. And the 2012 More Midwives campaign has now seen 2 research reports published, with our findings informing the inquiry from the House of Commons Public Accounts Select Committee. Since the launch of the campaign, the Department of Health and NHS England have also commissioned a new guidance on safe staffing for maternity. We have been trailblazers on many issues, but the success of WI campaigns lies in their substance, whether there are national policy changes to be made or a need for heightened awareness and public information. The WI has a unique structure of local, regional and national influence. Since 1918, WI members have refused to concede on matters of importance to them, and this has ensured our continued relevance. No challenge is too great, and no issue is too complex. Our 100-year legacy has shown both the public and those in power that the WI is indeed a force to be reckoned with. And as we enter our 100th year of campaigning, it is evident that this is not a reputation we are in danger of losing.
Wasn't that fantastic? And well done, Joanna, for putting that together. She's very talented. As a fairly new member of the WI back in the 1980s, I particularly remember being so impressed that we were one of the first organisations to talk openly about AIDS, and not by raising our eyebrows and disapproving, but by calling for more awareness and understanding. But as the film said, the WI has never avoided dealing with difficult issues. We can only imagine what the tea time conversation was like in 1922, when Mrs. Average Farmer's Wife came home from her WI meeting, where they'd voted on the resolutions for that year. Farmer: did you have a nice time at the WI, dear? Wife: yes, thank you, dear. We discussed venereal disease. More tea? Yeah, when you look back at this in its social context, VD was a very real problem. Just after the First World War, and many troops had come back from the front with this terrible disease. I'm sure it was very hard for them, but the ladies of the WI didn't shy away from discussing taboo topics then, any more than we do now. And this ethos has been illustrated by many campaigns over the years, including domestic violence, trafficking of women and children, care not custody, alleviating loneliness, and the hugely successful Welsh campaign, Not in My Name, to recruit male ambassadors to speak out against domestic abuse. This year's resolution is no exception, and whether passed or not later this morning, it will already have served as a topic for discussion and to raise awareness amongst members and non-members alike. We're often asked about whether we can include updates about recent campaigns at the annual meeting, so this afternoon Anne Jones, Chair of Public Affairs, will be doing just that. Of course, we all know that the WI isn't all about campaigns, far from it. Cookery, gardening, floral art, all kinds of crafts, science, sport and leisure pursuits are all core interests of every WI and every federation. And at the NFWI we do our best to support federations and WIs to get the best out of these activities. For instance, we've been developing a series of short skill videos with the WI Cookery School for MyWI, the members-only website. Videos already include knife skills, bread making, cupcakes and chopping herbs, and more are in the pipeline, including one on homemade granola, which will go live during Healthy Living and Wellbeing Week. And we're also developing videos on gardening, like creative containers, as well as floral art, so watch out for the release dates. Hopefully you all saw the resource pack which was sent to all WIs in the March mailing for our Healthy Living and Wellbeing Week. This starts next Monday, and we're encouraging members to take steps towards leading a healthy and balanced lifestyle through cooking, crafting and gardening. Everything you need to know is in the resource pack and on MyWI, and not only includes ideas for healthy eating, but also acknowledges that activities like gardening, floral art and craft making are equally beneficial for the mind and body. To celebrate 100 years of the Representation of the People Act, the NFWI was invited to take part in the Deeds Not Words 100 Banners project, organised by Digital Drama and funded by the Heritage Lottery Fund. The aim was to create banners to depict the lives and campaigns of local suffragettes. 26 WIs took up the challenge and joined the March for Women through London last month, and now the banners are on display at the Women's Library at the London School of Economics. Another craft initiative to celebrate 100 years of Votes for Women is the Processions Project, organised by Artichoke. Next Sunday, the 10th of June, women and girls from across the UK will come to celebrate 100 years since the first women gained the right to vote, and processions will take place here in Cardiff and in London, as well as Belfast and Edinburgh. Members from 41 WIs are taking part, including Anne Jones, NFWI Vice Chair and Chair of Public Affairs, who will be marching here in Cardiff with fellow members from Ceredigion. I know that many members will be making their own banners or flags to help create a sea of purple, green and white. Now, we know that many federations and indeed WIs themselves run lots of challenges and competitions, so we tend not to run them from the NFWI, but there are three that are firm favourites with you all. 2018's Huxley Cup takes place next week, hosted by Worcestershire Federation as part of the Three Counties show at Malvern from the 15th to the 17th of June. We've got 20 entries from 16 federations, so it promises to be a wonderful display. As last year, it's an imposed exhibit, so competitors just have to turn up with a pair of secateurs, which seems to be a popular choice. So if you're in the Malvern area on Friday, Saturday or Sunday next week, pop in and treat yourself to a feast of floral art at its WI best. This year's Lady Denman Cup competition invited members to write a diary extract of no more than 500 words based on the day that changed their life. Entries should be sent to federations for initial judging, and then 3 from each federation can be sent to NFWI for the final judging. There may still be time to enter if you haven't done so yet, so check with your federation for their closing date. And we'll be presenting both the Huxley Cup and Lady Denman Cup to last year's winners after lunch. The Elizabeth Bell Challenge runs from January to December this year, and WIs are invited to put together a selection of up to 12 photographs representing a year in their WI. Again, entries should be sent to federations for initial judging, then up to 3 entries from each federation can be submitted to NFWI. If the brilliant photos that are a feature on WI pages on social media are anything to go by, I can't wait to see the final entries. I think they're going to be fun. There's still plenty of time to enter, so watch out for your federation closing date. My own WI, please take note. With so many federation and WI centenaries happening at the moment, the role of federation and WI archivists is more important than ever. At the various celebrations I've attended, I've been delighted to see so many wonderful displays of scrapbooks, photographs and textiles, and even old minute books are a wonderful window into a bygone era. Last autumn, NFWI funded a 3-day Federation Archivist Conference at Denman to help them with their role. And as well as looking after Federation archives, they're there to help WIs with their own records, so do contact your Federation for advice. You'll soon be able to see photographs of Federation centenary events on the online Federation Centenary exhibition, which will begin on MyWI later this year. Federations who've already had their centenary year and those who'll be celebrating in the future will be contacted for information and photographs of the craft projects produced for the occasion so that they can be added to this online ongoing exhibition. And there's yet another centenary to celebrate, as it's 100 years since the first VCO training school was held in Sussex. VCOs, now known as WI advisors, had to undergo 2 weeks of training, which included lectures and visits to WIs. There was a VCO uniform of a brown corduroy suit and brown felt hat. But it was optional and was soon dropped. Thank goodness, I'm not sure I'd have ever become a WI advisor if I'd had to wear brown corduroy. Together with Federation trustees, WI advisors are the backbone of our organisation, and 38 new advisors were trained this year, so a big welcome to them. And they're joining the team of 372 existing WI advisors who were reappointed this year. The National Training Team has improved the structure and delivery of training, and some of the course will now be delivered online through the new WI training site, a far cry from that first training in 1918. This online content has enabled the training to be condensed, and we hope this will appeal to more members who have work or other commitments. The WI training site is now live and has replaced the WI Moodle. It's much more user-friendly and has a new design, which works well on tablets and smartphones. And it's now home to all the interactive courses that were on the Moodle, things like WI Treasurer's course, as well as resources for lots of specific Federation roles, and more will be added over time. You can access the site using your email address and the same password you use to access MyWI, so do go on and have a look around. And we'll be hearing more about MyWI and all the fabulous things on offer there later. As well as online training, the National Training Team, of which I'm proud to be a part, also delivers face-to-face training in communication skills, Federation officer training, and Federation trustee training. So if you're interested in any of those roles or want to book a training session, please visit the membership development stand at lunchtime. And if you've always dreamt of becoming an NFWI judge, that's also the place to find out more. Now, I know there's one thing you're all dying to hear about. Well, the wait is over. I am, of course, referring to GDPR. Seriously, I'm sure, like me, you're fed up to the back teeth of receiving emails and other communications from companies asking you to opt in, opt out, or shake it all about, or whatever. But it is an important subject, and one which we as an organisation have to take seriously. You'll be delighted to know that I'm not going to go into all the ins and outs now. Suffice to say that your WI will need to take a few practical steps, but don't worry, this isn't as scary as it sounds. All federations have already had all the information on what should be done at federation and WI level, and all WIs will receive more information in the June mailing. You can also pick up a leaflet today from the Digital Services stand, and we're also writing to all members in the next issue of WI Life, explaining what information the WI collects on individual members and how it's used to administer your membership. Now, I know we all find this extremely tedious, but I must thank our staff members, Jason Douglas, Catherine Rosquist, and of course Yana Osborne, for doing all the hard work for us, even though for them I think it's been like wading through treacle at times. And now to Denman. We'd like to thank everyone who's supported the Saving Denman appeal over the last 2 years. To date, you've raised a magnificent £661,978.91. And donations are still coming in. Our particular thanks go to Christine Hounslow of Wiltshire Federation, who spearheaded the member-led appeal, and I'm delighted that she's able to join us as our guest here today. Thank you, Christine. That appeal actually closed at the end of March, but of course, fundraising for Denman continues. In fact, fundraising for Denman will never end. And whilst the course fees cover the costs of running the courses, it's the maintenance of the buildings and grounds that we need funds for. Remember, no money from your subscription goes to support Denman. But I know Julia will be talking more about Denman finances later. And today we're launching a new initiative for you to help Denman. And some of you may have seen it on the stand outside. But I'm going to leave it to Pat Tulip, the chair of Denman, to tell you more about that later. And finally, the big reveal, drum roll please. Well, actually, it's only a little reveal because we've already announced it on social media. But WI members, families and friends are invited to attend an exclusive performance of Peter Pan at the Birmingham Hippodrome on Wednesday the 2nd of January 2019. The pantomime adventure will start in the morning with a variety of exciting activities, including magic acts, comedy, arts and crafts, as well as specially created heritage talks, exhibitions, storytelling, and behind-the-scene tours. Then you can take your seat for a special magical performance of Peter Pan. Ticket sales go live online this Friday, the 8th of June at 11 a.m, but you can pre-register so that when you do go online to actually buy, the process is a bit quicker. You can also order tickets by calling the Birmingham Hippodrome box office. In all cases, you'll need a special promotion code, which is MyWI. So, get your friends and family together for a wonderful day out to celebrate the new year. It's a great opportunity to see live theatre in action.
Oh, no, it isn't.
Again.
Oh, no, it isn't.
Oh, yes, it is. Thank you. Thank you. We now come to the financial section of the meeting, and Julia Roberts, NFWI Honorary Treasurer, will speak on the accounts for 2016 to 17. The summary of the accounts was printed in the annual review, which was sent to every WI, and the full accounts were sent to all federations and are available at all federation offices. Thank you, Julia.
Thank you, Lynn. Borodar, again. Good morning. Well, I might be a bit of the wicked stepmother here. You've had an amazing presentation from Lynn, so I hope you'll bear with the financial information, which it is my duty to report on to you today. So I'll start with a review of the last financial year, as detailed in the audited accounts for the 12 months ending on the 30th of September 2017. These are consolidated accounts. They cover all three parts of the organisation. That is, the NFWI membership charity, which provides support to the whole of the WI movement, our residential training college Denman, and our trading subsidiary, WI Enterprises Limited, which raises funds for the charity from commercial business activities. Transactions between these businesses have been eliminated from the consolidated accounts. You will find a summary of the audited accounts in the annual review, which has also been sent to every WI. The full Trustees' annual report and accounts are available on the NFWI website, including the members-only area of My WI, the Charity Commission website, and in Federation offices. You can also request a copy from the NFWI Finance Department. So, to look at our consolidated accounts for the year ended 30th of September 2017, the total income was £7.63 million, an increase of 6% on the previous year, and total expenditure was £7.37 million, which was 4% higher than the previous year. So increases were recorded in all the main income headings: an increase in membership subscriptions paid to the NFWI, an increase in donations from WI Enterprises Limited, and an increase in Denman's income. The increase in expenditure was across all charitable activities: membership and training, education, mainly Denman, and public affairs, that is campaigns. Over the year, the market value of our investments also went up by £289,000. This, of course, is outside our control and not represented in the budget. We must remember that, of course, sometimes investment values fall. However, any rise or fall in value is included in our total funds. The £260,000 surplus of income over expenditure, plus the investment gains of £289,000, resulted in a total increase in funds at the year end of £549,000. So, moving on to total funds. At the year end, the total funds were £10.07 million. These included tangible assets, that is land, buildings and equipment, of £2.67 million, investments of £4.51 million, and net current assets such as stock, cash, debtors and creditors of £2.89 million. So as at the 30th of September, we held reserves of £4 million. Reserves being funds the trustees are able to spend freely on the charity's objectives, so not included restricted funds which can only be spent on specific purposes, or funds tied up in fixed assets or designated funds which have been set aside for future projects. We need to hold reserves to cover fluctuations in income and expenditure, particularly given that we receive most of our membership subscription income in April and May, and have to hold funds to cover expenditure until the following year's subscriptions come in. We also need reserves to cover any unexpected events and ensure our financial independence. So at the end of the year, reserves were comfortably above the target level set by the trustees, and we will take this into account in our future financial planning. So those are the headline figures. Regarding the different parts of the organisation, the trustees have different financial objectives for each, and I'd like to look now at the financial performance of each business area. Starting with the NFWI membership charity, not including Denman or WI Enterprises, our financial objective is not to make a surplus, but to balance income and expenditure, maintaining and enhancing services to the whole organisation. So, to the NFWI summary, the total income was 3.457 million and expenditure 3.272 million, which gave a surplus of £185,000 before investment gains. So the investment gains were 232,000, and overall this resulted in a net increase in funds of £417,000. So of the total income, 69% comes from membership subscriptions and 3% from training. A further 20% of income was profit donated by the trading subsidiary, WI Enterprises. 4% came from investments, 2% from donations and legacies, and 2% from various charges for activities. So the NFWI expenditure of the total, 67% went into membership and training, 19% into public affairs, and 14% into educational activities. And now, let's turn our attention to Denman. The trustees' objective for Denman is that it should achieve a modest surplus on regular activities that will cover longer-term maintenance of the estate. So Denman's income for the year was £3.112 million, and its expenditure was £3.037 million, giving a surplus of £75,000, plus investment gains of £57,000. Overall, Denman's funds increased by £132,000 during the year. But of course, Denman's income in the last financial year included £316,000 donated to the Saving Denman appeal in the financial year, and legacies of £6,000. So without these two sources of income, Denman would have achieved a deficit. Still, it was a significant improvement on the previous year due to the increased donations and bookings, which were partly offset by increased expenditure. So a big thank you, as Lynn has said, to all members, those who attended courses and events at Denman, and those of you who donated to the maintenance of Denman through the Saving Denman appeal. And we must thank all WIs and federations who've organised special events to raise money for Saving Denman. But we still have to be cautious and accept that Denman will need continued support from the membership to secure its future. And Pat will be updating you later today, as Lynn has said. So last but not least, we come to our trading subsidiary, WI Enterprises Limited. Our objective is for WIE to make profits from trading activities and donate these to the parent charity. So these activities include publishing and distributing of WI Life, advertising sales, commissions, and of course retail sales of diaries and gifts. So WIE's income for the year was £3.219 million, including the payment from the NFWI for producing and distributing WI Life magazine. The costs were £2.512 million, and the total profit for the year was £707,000. This profit was around 38% higher than the previous year, and the main reasons were increased revenue and savings in expenses due to prudent management. However, WIE is also seeing some decline in the market for some of its more traditional products, for example, the WI Diary, but other new product lines such as the notebooks have been introduced, while the partnership with Hobbycraft is also growing stronger. But I'd now like to briefly touch on two topics I'm sure of interest to us all, and that is gift aid and membership subscriptions. On gift aid, WIs have been directed by the Charity Commission and HMRC that they can no longer claim gift aid on the full subscription, as they are acting as agents in passing on the Federation and the NFWI portions. But the NFWI trustees do recognise that this will be a loss of income to claiming WIs. Also, this means that federations and the NFWI would be able to claim gift aid on their portions of subscriptions. And the HMRC has accepted new guidance for WIs, federations, and the NFWI, which enables all 3 tiers to claim gift aid. We're working hard to come up with a procedure so that all 3 tiers of the organisation can benefit from gift aid, and updated communications will be sent out in due course. So the net amount which could be received yearly by the NFWI from gift aid would inform discussions about future subscriptions, and the amount federations and the NFWI could claim would depend on the number of members who've paid sufficient tax and have signed the new declaration form. So now to a popular subject, membership subscriptions. The trustees will continue to ensure it remains good value. In the recent RWI, Our Future membership survey, 88% respondents agreed that the WI subscription represents value for money. It should, however, be noted that the general level of prices do go up year on year, and these are unavoidable in most cases. But the trustees remain committed to their aim of increasing the percentage of subscriptions retained by federations and WIs. Of the £2 increase in subscription in 2018, 50% went to the WIs, 25% to the federations, and only 25% allocated to NFWI. The 92% of the NFWI share of subscriptions went back into membership and training in 2016-17. So I'd like to finish by thanking Catherine Burton and the team from our auditors, Hayes McIntyre. And I'd also like to warmly thank our 2 Finance Committee advisors, Ruth Kaufman and Kate Collier, and of course the members of the NFWI finance team. Many of you may remember Anne Wheeler, who was our head of finance, who left us at the end of December after 10 years of wonderful service, and was happily replaced by Edward Adamako, who had worked for us before, and Edward is now our new head of finance and is leading the wonderful finance team as we speak, and will be in charge of doing all that counting of the votes later. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Julia. And unfortunately, time doesn't permit us to take any questions on the accounts now, but all questions submitted in advance of the meeting have been responded to. Now, I'm sure you've all noticed the beautiful coat of arms on the stage table down there, and I will now ask Sue Wilson, Chair of the Craft Committee, to tell you about the history of this cloth and its recent restoration by the Royal School of Needlework. Sue.
Bore da, good morning everyone. Well, back in 1975, the NFWI was honoured to be awarded a coat of arms to mark its Diamond Jubilee. And members of West Kent Federation, I knew they were there somewhere, immediately set to work producing an exquisite goldwork and embroidery version of the crest, which was stitched onto a cloth and has been taking centre stage on the National Chairs table at the annual meeting for the last 43 years. It's also the focal point for the Wales Conference and the Autumn National Council meetings every year. Sadly, after over 100 appearances over 4 decades, the NFWI board felt that the backing of the cloth was no longer looking quite as beautiful as it once was. So earlier this year, we enlisted the help of the very talented conservationists at the Royal School of Needlework at Hampton Court to painstakingly remove the embroidered crest from its original backing and place it onto a new one. after cleaning the crest and restoring one or two areas of it which were in need of a little TLC. I think you'll agree that it's looking absolutely magnificent today. A coat of arms is designed by the College of Arms and is made up of items and symbols relevant to the person or organisation it represents. And we thought you might like to know how ours is actually made up. In the centre of the crest is a shield with a background in WI green, crossed by two heraldic signs of a horizontal wavy gold line, or bar dansetti, and a vertical straight white line, or palette, which very conveniently give the letters WI. There are also two pierced suns, which are a play on Lady Denman's maiden name, which was Pearson, and which also symbolise energy, light, and education. Above the shield stands a lion representing England, dressed in the colour red, symbolising Wales. And the lion holds a distaff, a tool used in spinning to hold the unspun wool, often used to symbolise domestic life and the female line of a family. And the shield is supported on either side by a pair of herons, symbolising all the elements of the countryside, as they stand in water, nest on land, and fly in the air. And at the bottom of the coat of arms is the WI motto for home and country. The original craftsmanship of the West Kent members is truly outstanding, so please do come and have a closer look at it and admire it during your lunch break if you can. Thank you.